Are you being a good guard dog? You guarding the stairs? Do you want a belly rub? Yeah, okay. Yay! That's the life, huh? That's the life. Hi guys, so today is Friday, which I'm really happy about because that means that Sean obviously doesn't have to work over the weekend. I have a very random work schedule. It changes often, sometimes from week to week. For those that don't know, I teach private violin lessons. So I do teach on Sunday, but I don't teach tomorrow and Sean doesn't work tomorrow. So yay for getting time with my husband. As for reading for this weekend, I haven't finished the books from my last vlog, so I gotta get around to those still. And then I am finally seriously picking up The Lies of Loch Lamora. The books that I started last week were Queens of Innisleer, All the Light We Cannot See, and Shadow and Bone. I'm still not done with Uprooted. I want to kind of try really hard to finish that today because we're planning on going to the library tomorrow. And that is one that I checked out from the library because I initially owned it and then I was 200 something pages in and I'm like, I don't really like this. I still want to finish it. So I checked it out from the library and we're going to the library tomorrow. So I was like, I need to finish this. I'm a loser with the other stuff though. I should have finished Shadow and Bone. It's very easy to get through and it's entertaining. So I'm kind of hoping that I can finish Uprooted tonight. Maybe get through a good chunk of Shadow and Bone. Queens of Innisleer, I don't mind that I'm reading it slower. My friend Jade from Bedtime Bookworm is reading it as well. And it's not a super fast moving book anyway, so I don't mind taking my time with that one. All the Light We Cannot See, I'm not really planning to finish immediately anyway. I wanted to read that throughout the month. So all of you who are reading it alongside me and Sean can take your time as well, because I know not everybody has tons of time to read. So I'm taking my time with that. Sean's already done with it though, and I feel really bad because we are not talking to each other about that book. We're waiting till the end of the month to talk about it. So the poor guy, I know he has thoughts and I can't talk to him about it. I'm gonna try really hard though. Finish Shadow and Bone, finish Uprooted pretty quickly, and then I'm gonna pick up Lies of Loch Lamora. I'm gonna keep reading Queens of Innisleer, and then I'm gonna try to get through a little more of All the Light We Cannot See. Look at all the fur that just comes off of you, Luna. Let's explore all of the fur. So we've got just random little pieces of fur everywhere. Look at this, ready? I just swept not long ago. It's everywhere. It just collects. Yeah. But you're sure cute. It's totally worth it, Luna. She hates being brushed too. Every single time we could literally make pillows out of the amount of fur that comes off of her. Oh, I'm sorry, Luna. Embarrassing you? Hmm? Luna? What's the matter? Are you being mopey for no reason at all? I'm gonna go sit in your chair. Ah. Aren't you adorable? It's not even fair. It's ridiculous. You're so cute. Is Dad home? Let's go see him. Come on. Let's go get the garage. Come on. Good girl. Oh, I know. It's so exciting. It's so exciting. I know. Yay!
Hi! Hi! Sniff, 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 sniff. Puppy dog.
Hi, husband.
Hi!
Got some ambiance going. The hubby is getting himself some coffee. Luna Bear is just hanging. And we are getting ready to play some Magic the Gathering. For those that play this game and are wondering, I actually use a combination of 3 colors. And Sean uses 2. He uses the 2 I don't use. He has swamps and forests, and I have mountains, islands, and plains. What is your strategy today?
My strategy going into this game is really just, keep attacking, don't let her get those flying creatures because they're going to come buzzing. And, just have a good game, and do what we do best. And offense maybe before defense in this case, okay.
What is your strategy going into this game this afternoon?
Well, it's nighttime, but my strategy is to win.
You heard it here first, folks.
Sean is seeking comfort after losing twice. Any comments?
We did the best we could. We went out there, we played with our hearts and our minds and our, hands and cards, and it just wasn't, in the dice, as they say. Better luck next time.
So I'm gonna tidy up, put our cards and dice away, and then I gotta edit some video stuff. Then finally getting back around to Uprooted. Hopefully I can finish it tonight or tomorrow morning, sometime within the next 24 hours, hoping to finish this. Are you hungry? Yeah? Let's go get your food. Oh, yeah. Sit. I know, it's so exciting. Good girl.
Okay.
Oh, a little
A little preemptive.
quick there.
Good morning, everybody. It is Saturday now, and I finished Uprooted, or as Sean calls it.
Up to date.
He always changes the names of the books I'm reading, so you heard his name for this. Ash Princess, he calls it Trash Princess. Lies of, I almost said what he calls it as if it was the title. Lies of Loch Lamora, he always calls it Lies of Luke and Leia. What do you call Mistborn?
Fogbirth.
What do you call City of Brass?
City of Gas. City of Bras.
What do you call the Poppy War?
Poopy War.
I'm actually really on the fence on whether I want to do a review for this, because it's not that I shy away from doing reviews of books that I didn't care for, because I'll do it. I don't know how to talk about this without sounding really terrible. So the writing I thought was good. I thought the writing was good. I thought the folklore elements were really good. And then after that, I try, even when I don't like books, I have a whole video about me recommending books I don't care for, because I know that it's very subjective. But besides the writing being good and the folklore elements, I don't know what about this. I don't know its strength. We'll see. Maybe I'll do a book chat, but I feel like you guys have heard my thoughts in previous vlogs enough to kind of already know my general thoughts on it. We are going to a card shop because I have been beating Sean in Magic a little too much for his liking, and it's pretty obvious it's because the last time we went to the card shop, I found some amazing cards. All right, we've barricaded the bookshelves from the dog because she struck again yesterday. Hi guys, so it's Monday now. I just want to give you a little bit of an update on my reading. Before I do that though, I do want to clarify what I had been saying before about Uprooted and how I was unsure if I wanted to do a book review for it. And I know that how I worded it, it definitely can come across like I'm saying I don't want to talk about this book because I didn't like it, which if somebody doesn't want to talk about something they didn't like, that's fine. That's not necessarily what I meant though, so I do want to give some clarification. I decided that I am going to do an individual book review for Uprooted, but I did want to have a little mini discussion about the idea of
negative reviews being more honest. I see this idea all the time, and I'm not claiming that it is untrue, but I do think that it's important to kind of examine that statement, because you ask anybody who makes book videos, and almost always if they make any kind of video that is negative in nature, so worst books of the year, books I hate, series I'll never continue, this was the worst book I read all year and it's only January, anything like that is going to get more views than favorite books or books I love, underhyped books. Those kinds of videos, they can get a lot of views, but almost always people are attracted to the negativity, and people think it's funny, people think it's really entertaining, and then on top of that they think it's more honest, which is strange to me, because if people are more inclined to watch something that is negative in nature, then I feel that whether it's intentional or not, people are more likely to want to find fault in what they're reading, so that when they make videos about it, they know people are more likely to watch. There are actually people, and I'm not saying there's fault with this, it's totally fine if they want to do this, but there are people who make entire video series or their entire channels dedicated to mocking something, making fun of something, going in depth about why something is bad. So anyway, I'll have my book review for Uprooted up very soon. Getting into my reading update though, it was very jarring because I went from All Light We Cannot See, I read 50 more pages of this, and then some Shadow and Bone. I read 100 and something pages of this. I'm not done with it yet. I'm not done with this yet. Why it was so jarring though has a lot to do with the premise, but primarily the writing style. This is so clearly meant for an older audience, and this is meant for a younger audience. And when reading young adult fantasy and then adult fantasy, I sometimes don't actually feel that the tone is that different. It's sometimes just the characters and their priorities, things like that, that feel really different. But oh my gosh, the writing style in this is very mature. And it's not difficult. I don't find it difficult in the slightest. I think it's very fast to read, even though the pace is slow. But I just mean it's not difficult. I'm not sitting there constantly like, what does this mean? Oh my gosh, I can't figure out what he's trying to tell me. This is so beautiful. It is beautiful, but it's beautiful in its simplicity. The style is so detached from our characters, but you somehow still just feel so emotionally gripped by what's happening. It's a story about World War II, two different children during World War II, and these people who are kind of not really believing that war is coming, but it is. And man, this sense of detachment and the way that he just so bluntly states things, the author, it makes it so that it doesn't require the story to have anything more. It doesn't require it to be romanticized, because it's war and it's tragedy and it's already really sad all on its own, and the consequences of war are terrible. And because the writing style is somewhat blunt, it just so puts that in perspective. I'm really enjoying it. I have no idea where it's gonna go, but a little over 100 pages in, and I can't wait to read more. Shadow and Bone, obviously very, very different. The writing style is very simple, but in a different way. I wouldn't say it's simple so that we can reflect on the consequences of war or anything like that. It's just that it is written for a younger audience. And sometimes the main character can be, I don't want to say stupid, but she just says things that come to mind, and she doesn't have a lot of tact, I think is the best way to put it. And I don't necessarily blame the character for being this way, and I also don't hate characters who start off a certain way and then grow throughout the series. This is a reread for me, and I don't quite remember how much growth we see in our main character, so if by the end of my reread I find that we don't see hardly any, then that will probably frustrate me. But there are times that she just feels so absorbed in materialistic things, in appearances, and it's frustrating. But then you get some really deep moments with her where she reflects on this feeling of loneliness and having nobody and constantly second guessing her worth. And while I think that is something that I don't really relate to at this time in my life, I can definitely see this being very relatable to a lot of people, especially a lot of really young people. And during this reread, I think it's just being reaffirmed for me that this definitely sits on the younger end of young adult, so transitioning out of middle grade. That's my update for now. I'm gonna go ahead and get some more reading done, record that Uprooted book review, and I'll check in with you guys a little later. Hi guys, good morning. It's morning for me anyway. And I just wanted to update you. I finished Shadow and Bone. I ended up really enjoying it. I stand by my previous thoughts that this is probably more the younger end of young adult. So if you find that you're not the biggest fan of middle grade or more youthful toned books, then I don't know that you're gonna enjoy the Grisha trilogy. I have read a little bit more of Queens of Innisleer and Lies of Loch Lamora, but not enough I feel that I have anything to really say at the moment. So I'm definitely gonna do some more reading and then I'll update you guys about those. But in the meantime, I have a question. I'm actually gonna put up a little poll because I'm very curious to see. When people do sponsorships, how often do you wonder if the product that they are talking about or the service they're talking about, how often do you wonder if the person in the video has actually used that particular service or product? Because I know for myself, I often wonder that. And to be clear, if they don't and they just feel like it's a service that people might like who are watching their videos, that's fine. I don't really care. They're still providing content that I find enjoyable or entertaining in some fashion. And so I don't mind when people do sponsorships, but that is a thought that crosses my mind. And the reason I'm asking is because I am partnering with Skillshare for this video. I teach private violin lessons and I have always found this difficulty in what I do for work because I can only teach so many hours in the day because of the fact that most of the time kids are at school during the day. So I have a window of each day that I can do what I do for work. And because of that, I have to charge a certain amount of money in order to make this my profession. But there are some elements of what I do that I definitely feel could easily be accessible through platforms like Skillshare, because then you don't have to pay tons of money to start. You can explore if this is a skill that you want to dedicate time to, and you can learn more about a hobby that you might have had when you were younger if you're an adult, or maybe you're looking for some information for your child. Whatever the case may be, there are some things at the beginning stages of learning that I definitely feel like should be more accessible, and for that reason, I'm totally down for what Skillshare does and the service that they provide, because they have tons of classes that range in all sorts of things, from photography to design to marketing to writing. Whatever the case may be, whatever you're interested in, they probably have a class on it. That said, I want to take one of their classes and then give you guys some information, almost like a review, the same way I review books. Let you know what I found really helpful, what I took out of it, things that I thought maybe could be improved upon. I want to do a little review of one of the classes. Obviously, the class I'm taking is not an indication of the quality of every single class because it's not the same person putting up every single class, but I want to actually use and utilize this service that I'm talking about to all of you. I just feel like in doing it this way, it actually provides you with the information. If I were on the other end, this is what I would want to know. The class that I'm going to be taking is about time management. I'm always looking for ways to manage my time better, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I've got one of my sparkling ice beverages for caffeine because I need it. Also, I love these, and on the topic of sponsorships, I want them to sponsor me, guys, because I drink these all the time, and you know what? If they wanted to just send them to me for free, I would not decline. I completed the class now to give you guys a little rundown, a little review of it. Overall, I thought it was really well put together, and there were a lot of things about it that I think are really beneficial tips because it's about time management and productivity. I'll go ahead and do a little bit of a pros cons list. I'll start with the cons. We'll start with the negative and then get into the positive. And there's not a ton of negatives here, but the biggest thing for me is whenever I am on a website or watching somebody's videos or anything to do with time management, I almost always find that the tips are definitely applicable to me and my circumstances because I do have an unusual job. My schedule changes from one day to the next. And so a lot of times the types of daily planning, weekly planning, those sorts of things definitely apply to me, but I very rarely see a lot of these sorts of classes or bits of advice that are applicable to people who work a more traditional 9 to 5, someone like my husband. And so while there are, of course, bits of information that you can take away from that and apply to your situation, I still think I have yet to find the perfect time management course for, I hate to say like the average person, but you know, on average, most people do not have a situation like mine. The only bits of advice that she gave that I didn't 100% agree with was, one of the things she said was, when you're making a weekly list of things that you need to accomplish, try to start small and then start tackling the bigger things so that you build momentum. And I think that's not bad advice. It's just not advice that works for everyone, because some people, they benefit from tackling the things that are bigger and then they feel the sense of relief, and then it's easier to get to the small stuff. I think it's just a different way that some people are wired. I just wish that she'd provided a little bit of flexibility for the fact that some people operate just a little different. As for the actual setup of the class, that's primarily a positive for me, but one little negative about the setup is that everything is broken up into very specific groups, which that's totally fine. It's usually ranging from 3.5 minutes to 5 minutes for each specific thing. And within those specific things, you'd have about a 10-second intro and then a 10-second outro. And for somebody like myself, who was just planning on taking the entire course, which is about 40 minutes in total, I didn't need those intros and outros every single time. I think it made it so that the flow wasn't as good as it could have been. And I think it could have been cut down significantly in time if you chop off those 10 seconds at the beginning and end of every single clip. The positives, though, of which I had way more of, the biggest is that I found that she gave a lot of information that I've not only seen before, but she expanded on certain things or reworded certain things in ways that I've not really heard people say, and I really appreciated some of how she approached things. One specific thing that I really liked that she talked about was, when you're making your to-do lists or when you're feeling overwhelmed, those sorts of things, make a list of everything that you think you need to get done. And then she specified ways in which to condense that, because a lot of it, she talked about how it's remove, reassign, and reschedule. And she broke it down for those 3 words as what absolutely needs to get done, what needs to get done by you, and then what needs to get done now. And if you find you have a lot of things on that list you made that you have to get done and they end up fitting into these categories, you can kind of either take them off completely or reschedule them, like the last one says, and then that actually has a better view of what you actually need to do. I don't know, it's like a lot of times people will tell you make your to-do list and then put the things of highest priority at the top. And instead of doing that, she's kind of like, well, let me help you figure out what actually has the highest priority. The other 2 things that I thought she said that stood out to me was, she talked about don't compare yourself. A lot of times when I look at ways in which to be more productive, they almost always start off by talking about really productive people, and here's what these really productive people have done. And then you kind of can't help but compare yourself to those people. And at no point did this particular person reference anyone. The last bit of information that stood out to me was pressing deadlines. So she talked about how most of the time we end up having certain tasks drawn out by nature of procrastination, because we do have the time to procrastinate. So if you force yourself to have a stricter deadline, sometimes literally by setting timers, then you're actually more likely to get that done. Overall, I definitely would actually recommend this class. I was really impressed with its presentation. You don't see the woman talking, it's just a bunch of slides, and the slides are really aesthetically pleasing to me. They're like kind of that minimalist look, which I really like, and I just found every single slide was just, it made me feel good. And then her voice and the audio quality, it's almost, I would say it's better than some audiobooks that I've listened to, and she has a lovely accent. Anyway, overall, I actually would definitely recommend this class if you are looking for just some more tips for time management. I gave the ones that I thought stood out the most, but there might be other things that you would find beneficial. Anyway, I'm gonna go do some more reading, and then I will update you on Liza Lockamora and Queens of Innisleer. So I'm a little sick, so I've not actually read any more of My friend Jade, she always calls this Queen of the Tearling, and it makes me want to call it Queen of the Tearling. But it's the Queen's Venice Lear. I haven't read any more of it, but I've read a little more of Eliza Locklemora. I'm only 50 pages in, which it looks like I'm 5 pages in, because this is one of those tiny books that look small, but it's actually 700 and something pages. So I mentioned in the past that this book, the writing style has been really difficult for me, and I want to try out the audiobook, but I don't like starting books with audio because I find, especially with adult fantasy, that with all the different names and the world building and everything, that it helps me to start reading it physically first, then I'll go back and forth between the physical and the audio. So I'm kind of just still finding the physical a little frustrating because it has a lot of bells and whistles. So an example of that, like right here, the word ah has 7 H's. And I know that's not a big deal and it doesn't mean the book's bad, but stuff like that with a lot of ellipses and a lot of parentheses, a lot of italics, for me it makes the narrative feel really casual, and I don't know, it pulls me out of the story. And I know it's a personal thing, but it to me ends up, instead of enhancing the story or trying to bring attention to specific words or certain moments, it just ends up, it gets too redundant and it loses its effect for me. And then another example, like the cursing, I already feel like cursing on its own has significance, but then it's italicized a lot. So there's that one there, and then later here. And just in general, a lot of the words are in italics that don't really feel like they need to be in italics. Some of the stuff that's in parentheses is just not relevant information that I need to know. For example, right here, it says that Locke reached out and plucked the thief maker's purse, and it says a pouch of rust red leather. That's not particularly relevant. Like, I don't need to know that. I don't mind detail, but this book is 700 and something pages, and I get a lot of little bits like that. So as of right now, I'm only 50 pages in. Not really enough to, it's not like I'm like quitting the book or something. I'm definitely going to keep going. But the writing style is not my favorite. I don't feel attached to anybody right now either, because it keeps going back and forth to present, past, but sometimes within a very short time frame. So it's almost like the same scene, but then it takes you back a little bit later, and then a little bit earlier, and then a little later. And right now it's just difficult for me to feel attached to anything. But like I said, only 50 pages in, so all of what I've said so far could go out the window with more reading. That is it for now. Since I don't feel particularly good, I am gonna just try to go to bed and not worry about reading too much more. So sorry that there's a lack of progression with this one. Hopefully next time I will have read a lot more of this. Hopefully I'll be feeling better too. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Luna Bear is getting her rest, and I'll see you later.